Welcome to Behind the Campaign, the podcast where marketers pull back the curtain on some of their favorite marketing campaigns. I am joined today by two lovely ladies from Embark Marketing in Texas. I've got Kim Beechner, who's the CEO, and Victoria Baumley, who is their web developer. Welcome, ladies.
You for
Good to be
having
here.
us.
Sure. Today we are talking about a campaign that you guys did for a new venue down in the San Antonio area. And these kinds of venues are popping up all across the country. I know we have a couple of them here in Indianapolis. Tell us a little bit about what your team at Embark did for the Creamery district and kind of what all you did for them.
Absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, Andy, it is kind of a popular trend in the hospitality industry that we're seeing these mixed use spaces pop up all over the United States. So we were approached by a hospitality group called Only One Hospitality, who envisioned a mixed use space in downtown San Antonio called the Creamery District. What they did was take a old Borden's Creamery milk factory and transform it into this mixed use space that included apartments, office space, and then food and beverage little dining area. So we were contracted to come in and handle the food and beverage aspect, which encompassed 7 food and beverage concepts and the district itself as a whole, if you will. So our job was kind of position the district as a must-see destination in San Antonio along the Riverwalk, but also create a unique vibe for each of the individual concepts that encompass the district.
Well, that's very cool. So most of your work is with the restaurant and bar industry. So how does your team brainstorm around this particular idea of you have like this, overarching brand and then multiple brands underneath that? How does your team go about brainstorming?
This was a really challenging project, primarily because it was a new concept. So it wasn't like anything existed before we came. We were kind of coming up with everything in preparation for the launch of all of the concepts. And everything was under construction when we first took on this project. So we didn't even have a physical space to look at to understand what we were working with yet. So the first step for us was to kind of do some digging and research and strategy meetings with the client to really understand what they envisioned for this district and what they envisioned as the vibe for each of the 7 food and beverage concepts. And then on our end was try and understand if the target demographic that they were trying to reach was actually feasible in the location that they were, which we identified was kind of a 50-50 split. Being that they were located on the Riverwalk, which is a very predominant tourist destination, we knew that there would be the opportunity to capture a lot of tourists, but that's not enough to sustain food and beverage concepts. They also need the support of their local community. So the other half of the piece of the puzzle was how can we make these concepts attractive to people who are locals here as well? So we did a lot of digging on that first and really defining the voice and the brand of each one. And then the step after that was designing a timeline where each brand could have its unique voice and not challenge each other. This project took about a year and a half, and the timelines were constantly fluctuating with construction delays. So it was hard. It was very, very hard. But I think having a lot of strategy meetings and really thinking in depth about how we could launch each concept uniquely was a big key to the success here.
So the client came to you and they already had this idea. They already had the 7 restaurants or beverage or eatery concepts, but you had to kind of work with them to develop kind of what the voice is for each one of those and what you use the word vibe, what the vibe is that you could transfer to your marketing concepts. Is that right?
Right. So one of the first concepts they wanted to launch was Creme, which was a coffee shop. This was very strategic of why we wanted to launch this piece first. One, because it was going to be the quickest for us to construct. And 2, the apartments and the office space occupancy had already been leased. So we wanted to provide those people in the mixed use space a place to like commune. And the coffee shop made the best sense while we were naturally growing the other aspects and developing them. So we started with the coffee shop and then slowly after that started launching one after another that made strategic sense. The coffee shop was very European style. It had coffee, but also prosecco on tap, so you could get champagne if you wanted. Very dog friendly, very chic. And then all the other concepts that followed had a little bit different vibe than each other. So that if you were coming to the Creamery district, the goal was that no matter who you were, no matter what you were dressed, no matter what you were looking for, you would find something in that space for you. So after the coffee shop, we looked at a jazz kind of cocktail lounge with bites and live music. We had Easy Baby, which was a club underneath in the basement. Chica, which is an omasaki sushi restaurant. Tribute, a sports bar. And Costa Pacifica Margarita Garden, which was kind of a Mexican style vibe. So it was a little bit of everything so that you could go and if you were looking for the live music, you had it. If you wanted coffee, you had it. If you wanted good food, you had it. If you wanted a club and the you had it.
Good sound
So,
effects there.
yeah.
You mentioned research a little bit about how you had to research kind of, think about who your target audience was. Since this was almost like 7 jobs in one, did you end up doing a lot of research for each individual concept in addition to the overall brand?
Yes, yes, which made the research time especially difficult um, because each concept appealed to a very different market. The club is totally different than maybe the coffee shop, which is totally different than the jazz bar, which has more of an elevated dining menu with a higher price point, which is going to appeal to a different demographic than some of the other spaces. So we did have to do a little bit of research for each individual brand, um, in addition to the entire district as a whole. But it did give us the opportunity, I felt, to cover pretty much every demographic we could possibly want. Could potentially find uh, space here to have a good time.
Victoria, I know you are working on the web or did work on the web design for all of this, getting everything developed. Tell me a little bit about how you approach this from a web perspective with all of these kind of intermingled brands, the overarching Creamery brand, Creamery District brand, but then all of the individual concepts within there.
Sure. So my end also included a lot of research, less demographic, but kind of in the same vein of, you're going to attract a different audience with coffee shop keywords than you are with a bar or lounge keyword set. So that was kind of my first step. And then with the creamery itself, that has its own kind of landing page um, for all of the concepts, and then each individual concept has its own website. So for that, each one gets its own kind of vibe. Like Kim was saying, all of them are so different that they all required, different ways of speaking. So all of the copy and the text is different, but it still includes that piece of the keywords. Or if we have, all of them have event pages, all of them have certain aspects that are the same, but they all have their own vibe for each one, and they all tie back to the overarching brand of the creamery. So we kind of have that internal links, and they all have at the bottom that piece that includes all of the concepts of the creamery. So no matter where you land and which demographic you're coming from, you're gonna be able to see the creamery as a whole, but letting each moment shine.
So how does that work with SEO? You obviously are trying to target each one of these individual landing pages for each of the different concepts. You're trying to target those to different groups. How do you do that in kind of an holistic way with all these interconnected websites, so you're not cannibalizing off of the others.
It's more about the keywords, and it's, more of, like, the technical, so the metadata, making sure that all of my headings and titles and all of that stuff are targeting for each individual, set of keywords, but each one includes the component of the creamery as a whole, so there is some cannibalization, but I actually think in this case, it would be considered a good thing because you are focusing not just on a piece, but more awareness of the district as a whole. So each concept got its own set of keywords to target. So that was taking care of like the specific demographics, looking up a coffee shop, looking up a lounge, etc. So that was kind of the way to target the local population. And then also I try to include as many of the keywords for the Riverwalk, San Antonio, all of those kind of things to really hit home for any of the tourists. Um, to hit that point, each of each individual concept got its own set, and then the overarching umbrella was the Creamery District as the landing page. Because similar to another eat play work concepts locally called the Pearl, they have stuff like farmers markets and events that are for the um, overall district as a whole. So the creamery also wanted to have a space for that as well. So my solution was to give them their own kind of space to be able to eventually do that because that was not going to happen for that first year and a half. I think this is the first year that they have started doing like holiday pop ups and like all of that kind of fun stuff. So anyway, so they're doing that kind of stuff on the actual creamery website, but each one of the individual ones has their own stuff going on with their DJs and all that kind of stuff. So basically, it gave everybody their own voting in. Now we don't maintain the calendar, so it's kind of up to them now to put stuff on there. But I gave them the tools for all of that to set them up for success.
So we see a lot more people using AI to do things like planning vacations and planning, their getaways or whatever. Are you seeing any of that in kind of the back end of where your traffic is coming from for this website? Are you seeing any coming from AI tools? Because I know I used like Gemini to help plan one of our vacations, and it was very helpful.
It's kind of a complicated question, to be honest with you. Everything is still kind of emerging. AI has now become the number one way that people look for anything. And they are using a different methodology than what typical SEO uses. So, for instance, for typical keywords, you would use coffee shop near me, right? With AI keywords, users interact with it differently. So you just ask Gemini a question. You don't put it into search SEO terms, right? So you would just say, hey, Gemini, I need a coffee shop that's close to me. Like you do it more conversationally. So what we have seen is that things like FAQ pages are starting to become really important to show up in AI overview search results. So there's a concept with SEO that's called position zero. So it's kind of above that position one ranking. And so that used to be these kind of information bubbles that you would get on Google that would kind of appear on the side. Now that's kind of been taken over by the AI overview. So if you can get cited into the AI overview source, then um, it's counted as a hit on the SEO side, right? So it's a completely different way of searching. And like I said, it's still kind of emerging. But we definitely have seen some traction in that side of it, and they are becoming more and more important for keywords. So a lot of people are thinking that websites aren't as needed as they used to be, that they could be, just using Facebook or whatever to promote their business. But honestly, nothing could be further from the truth because your website is your base for everything, for what AI pulls your information from. So tying that back to the Creamery District, one of the reasons that I wanted to get the websites up and have multiple websites was kind of in preparation for this type of searching and this type of multi concept because I could get into those niche spaces with coffee house, etc., but I could also get the umbrella terms for those.
You guys also did, social media,
Yeah.
for the Creamery District. Does each individual concept or restaurant have its own social media, and how do you kind of interplay those?
Yes. So our approach in launching the Creamery District and all of the individual concepts was kind of to take an integrated communications marketing approach. So that was a combination of starting with the web development and SEO and ensuring that everything was connected, but then creating kind of this branch effect underneath the websites. So the website served as the umbrella, but then each individual concept and the Creamery District got their own social media. So their own Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Google listing, Yelp listing, so that they would propagate individually and so that we could showcase each brand individually. In doing that, we were able to create content that was unique to each brand, which helped resonate with the ideal target demographic for each brand. And then when it made sense, for instance, if we were having a Creamery Rye event or campaign, we would use collaboration features to collaborate between the creamery and the individual location or all of the locations together, which helped to connect maybe someone who was interested in the coffee shop but didn't realize that there was also a rooftop bar. They were exposed to all the other brands. So each individual brand and the district as a whole helped to raise all of them up on social media. In addition to social media, we also did public relations and influencer campaigns, which was really, really important for them as we launched each brand. We wanted to be very thoughtful about this to avoid any brand fatigue. Because this took a year and a half, we needed to sustain the interest not only in the individual concepts, but also the district as a whole over the course of a year and a half. So timing became very pertinent and making sure that we gave each unit enough time to have its moment before another concept opened and took over the influencers, news feeds, and social media, and all of the things having to do with PR.
You had some very, vivid and beautiful photography and videography that I saw on the websites. Is this something that do you, like, work with local photographers, or do you have somebody in-house that does that? I'm assuming that, photography for food is a kind of a specialized area of visual arts?
We do. We have a content creator that we work with for the majority of our accounts. However, the Creamery District in particular was shot by a young man named Nestor, and he is from San Antonio, and he has a really, really good eye, not just in editing, but creative shots. And with all of these concepts, aesthetic was a very big element to each one. We spent a lot of time, or the operations team spent a lot of time designing each space with intricate details. And he was able to capture all of that through photography and videography, which helped enhance our social media campaigns. In the hospitality and food and beverage space, 100%, the photos and videos have to really sell the food and the drinks, but more importantly, in today's social media world, I think aesthetics and humanizing the brand is super important. And so him being able to story tell a little bit for each brand also helped to enhance our social media. So he did an excellent job. It's easy to sell something when you have the right content. And I think a lot of people don't understand how important content creation is for marketing in general, not just on social media, but even when we did our PR campaigns, what attracted the news media to us was our quality photography and videography and really helping them tell our story.
Yeah, there's this seems to be this theme in the content marketing, content creation space where there's a big pushback against AI and inauthentic content. And so, like you said, that storytelling through whether it be visual or verbal means, is really setting companies apart when others are doing AI slop or, using AI to create their content or their visuals, having something that people can tell is authentic and true really can push you over the edge when it comes to their business.
Yeah, I agree. This concept in particular, as Victoria mentioned, there was one of the challenges was that there was another district that's close to downtown that serves kind of as their maybe a little bit of a competition because they have a similar eat, drink, play kind of concept. But theirs is more daytime heavy, family friendly. And ours was a little bit more nightlife and fun, something to do in the evenings, something to keep you entertained late night. So I feel like we did a good job at trying to create differentiation in the market for this concept, both in our branding, but in the marketing in general.
And this is on the Riverwalk, which is beautiful in San Antonio. Were there any sort of physical marketing campaigns that you guys did or anything kind of geographically located around the Riverwalk that you guys were involved in?
Hmm. Not necessarily. This particular mixed use concept is on technically off of the Riverwalk, but maybe on a more underutilized area of the Riverwalk. It's kind of like a newer Riverwalk extension. And so I think a lot of the both locals and tourists maybe don't know that they can get there by foot. So we did do some content creations with drones trying to really showcase where we are and how walkable we can be from the downtown core area of the Riverwalk. So I think that was the most that we did in trying to help differentiate where we were along downtown. The other aspect that we did that was more community oriented was developing a partnership with Visit San Antonio. And this was really to hone in on that tourism demographic. Visit San Antonio, and every city has one, it's a great way for us to partner and capture some of the tourism market and also capitalize on the public relations piece that Visit San Antonio is trying to constantly campaign that we're a great city to visit and we have a lot of unique concepts. And I think the Creamery District is a great example of why you want to come to San Antonio. It's fun, it's engaging, it's different. It's a very nice complement to our city, and I think San Antonio is growing so much in the food and beverage space. We've recently had some Michelin award winners, some Michelin bib winners. We've got great talent here in our city. And we've got the Culinary Institute of America. So I think we're only going to see more great things happening here.
It's wonderful. It sounds like the Creamery District is almost an anchor to kind of pull out the geographic area of the Riverwalk to as it's expanding. It's going to be one of those spots that was one of the first in the area, in the extended area.
Yes, I hope so.
You mentioned earlier a challenge you had with the fact that as you were brainstorming, you didn't actually have physical spaces to look at. Were there any other challenges that came up along the way? I don't know if did you have kind of working with both the Creamery District people and the managers for the individual concepts? And did they, was there any ever kind of, a disagreement or any other challenges that you had in this campaign?
We primarily worked with their operational director. She was kind of our anchor and helping manage the team and communicating effectively what the internal team wanted, and then how can we convey that on the marketing side. I think our biggest challenge was time both with construction delays. This is a common thing that happens in the food and beverage space when we're building things out. You know, we're constantly being delayed, equipment's delayed, somebody didn't show up, or whatever happened. So that was a big challenge. And I think also keeping it fluid of what we could do in a reasonable amount of time. So I think there were some issues here and there where it was like, okay, we think this is going to be the vibe of the concept. This is what we envision. This is what we want, and we want it done in 2 weeks. And it's like, oh, 2 weeks is not enough to adequately launch a brand and have a successful grand opening. So, a challenge for us was having to pivot very quickly and come up with ideas of how to turn around a concept in 2 weeks. Even though we knew it was coming, and we could prepare as much as possible. We didn't know for sure until construction says, okay, we're done. And I understand why the hospitality group wanted to open things so quickly, because they were already, paying the lease. They're ready to open as soon as possible. So with most of our restaurant concepts, we encourage them to do a soft opening. So with all of them, we were at least able to get them open very quickly, launch them into their soft opening, get them trained, get their staff an opportunity to practice. We did some social media announcements, some light stuff to just kind of let people know we're here, we're open, forgive us, we're learning, and then do a real hard push for the grand opening, which for each individual concept was very, very successful, which I'm so thankful for. And each concept brought different demographic, which exposed everybody to the overall concept of the creamery. And one of the things that was really unique that we did for each grand opening is we would do little tours of these spaces that weren't yet opened to try and give that little like what's to come, that teaser of we have more coming soon, we have more coming soon, to keep people engaged. And that was very strategic. We wanted to, like I said earlier, sustain interest over time. And we knew it was going to take a year and a half to do that. And how do you keep people constantly engaged and interested in what's coming?
Yeah. So all of the concepts are open now, and that's all good. Anything new coming up for either the district, or kind of what's your role now that everything's open? Are you still providing web support? How's that working out?
They hired us always with the intention of growing their own internal marketing group. So, as an agency, we work with a lot of hospitality groups that have multi units, and commonly they have us come in to help set up operational procedures, kind of guide them in what direction that they should go. So, our role was setting the foundation for not just the district, but each brand, and creating a system for them and then handing it off to the operations team for them to continue executing. And now we kind of serve as a la carte consultant. So as they have issues or something comes up or they're strategizing about a new campaign, they'll reach out to us and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? So we're still actively chatting with them. But for the most part, the marketing has been rolled over into their own in house team, which is great. It's nothing like building up your little baby and then handing it over and going, okay, she's all ready and perfect for you guys to take over, optimized and ready to go.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. It's like you're almost kind of training the trainer, so to speak, is, getting them all set up. And I'm assuming you've done this several times with several different concepts and different groups. Do you have sort of a formula that you follow when you have these multi-unit, multi-restaurant concepts that you work with?
Yes, absolutely. We kind of find that there's like a very set different types of clients that come to us. Hospitality groups with multi units that are all different kinds of brands. So they have a very particular approach. And then we have people that come to us that are franchises that have multi units that are all the same brand and they have a different type of approach. And then we have independent operators. So over the last 15 years, having only worked in the restaurant and bar space, I feel like we've seen it all. And over that time, have learned, okay, what each in particular concept or group needs that works, and we've seen proven success. And so when we meet with those types of clients, we already kind of have a little bit of a pathway, a little bit of a template, if you will. And then train them on this is the template we've seen work well. And you can learn our template and hopefully find success on your own. In this case, as a hospitality group, I think the operational director, after working with us for a year and a half, really started to understand what she needed from a CMO or from uh, a social media manager, and content creator. So she knew how to hire and set up her team where she didn't maybe know that before us.
That's great. Well, it sounds like this was everything was a success, and even though it took 18 months, to get everything launched, it sounds like your team, had a great handle on everything in order to get that accomplished and successfully.
Yeah, it was great. I'm so proud of our team. It was definitely a lot of hands on deck between myself and the social media account manager, the content creator, Victoria, all of us trying to work together to achieve the results the client wanted and be strategic because this was a lot of brands at once.
Yeah,
It was definitely one of our challenging projects for sure, but a
and the
great.
concepts are all so different.
Mhm, mhm. Yes,
They
yes,
Yeah,
really
yes, but a
very
lot of
are.
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
It's very cute, very
Mhm.
fun
It was a lot
concept.
of fun.
It was a lot of fun and good design. It's so refreshing when your
Mhm.
client cares as much about the look and the feel and the aesthetics as the marketing person does. Sometimes we don't always see
Mhm.
eye to eye. So to have somebody who genuinely cared about those things made our job more exciting and fun and made us want to fulfill the client's vision even further because they had a very refined vision.
Mhm.
Great. Well, thank you both for joining me today, and, we'll make sure that everybody gets the links to both Embark Marketing and the Creamery District so they can go visit for themselves, and, we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Andy. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.